Welcome to meeting number 26 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Industry, Science and Technology. Today's meeting is taking place in a hybrid format pursuant to the House Order of January 25th, 2021. The proceedings will be made available via the House of Commons website. So that you are aware, the webcast will only show the person speaking rather than the entirety of the committee. To ensure an orderly meeting, I'd like to outline a few rules to follow. Members and witnesses may speak in the official language of their choice. Interpretation services are available for this meeting. You have the choice at the bottom of your screen of either floor, English, or French. Please select the choice of your preference. Before speaking, please wait until I recognize you by name. A reminder that all comments by members and witnesses should be addressed through the chair, and that when you are not speaking, your microphone should be on mute. As is my normal practice, I will hold up a yellow card for when you have 30 seconds left in your intervention and a red card for when your time for questions has expired. Please respect the time allocations so I don't have to cut you off. Pursuant to Standing Order 1082 and the motion adopted by the committee on Friday, March 19th, 2021, today started study on the proposed acquisition of Shaw by Rogers. I'd like to now welcome our witnesses. From Rogers Communications, we have Mr. Joe Natale, President and Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Dean Prévost, President, Connected Home Rogers for Business, and Victoria Smith, Director, Community Partnerships Network Expansion. From Shaw Communications, we have Mr. Brad Shaw, Executive Chair and Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Paul McAllis, President, and Chima Nickmim, I'm going to get this, Nickmim Dirim, Vice President, Government Relations. Each witness will present for up to 6 minutes, followed by rounds of questions. We will try our best today to complete 4 rounds of questions. With that, I invite Rogers Communication to present. You have the floor for 6 minutes.
Thank you, and bonjour tout le monde. Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee, honorable député.
Honorable members.
And I'm President and CEO of Rogers Communications. Merci de me donner l'occasion.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you today.
By Dean Prévost, President, Connected Home and Rogers for Business, and Victoria Smith, Director of Community Partnerships. I'm sorry, is there, hello?
Yes, Mr. Natale, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. As members know, on March 15, we announced the proposed union of Rogers and Shaw. Both companies were founded more than 50 years ago by 2 of Canada's greatest entrepreneurs, Ted Rogers and J.R. Shaw. They were pioneers who shared a commitment to innovation and to building a better Canada. And today I'm proud to say that these commitments are deeply reflected in the culture of both companies. Canada's networks are among the world's best, a fact that has served us well during the pandemic, as Canadians and businesses were able to quickly pivot to an online world. But we didn't get there by accident. It is a result of billions of dollars of investment from Rogers, our industry, and government partners. Canada must take the next step now to secure our position as a global technology leader and ensure our long-term economic competitiveness. Le moment est venu de passer l'étape suivante.
The time has come to move to the next stage.
Generational investment. Today, Rogers and Shaw are committed to building this future for Canadians. By coming together, we will accelerate the delivery of critical 5G service and create a new coast-to-coast internet provider, combining Rogers and Shaw's operational expertise and quality assets. This will increase competition and continue the current downward trend in prices, while network performance capabilities and coverage will dramatically improve. A recent study using StatsCan data showed wireless prices dropped 25% since 2016. The broader rollout of 5G networks will continue this positive trend. The combined company with our complementary networks will deliver 5G services much more quickly and more widely than either company could achieve on its own. The new national fiber network will enable stronger competition and greater scale for large enterprise and government customers, which is needed for Canada's competitive position. Upgrading our digital infrastructure and accelerating digitization is critical for us to remain competitive. It will create jobs, diversify our economy, strengthen our innovation sector, and fuel Canada's economic recovery. Investment in Canada will increase through this combination. It has to, in order to keep pace with consumer, educational, and business demand for speed and capacity. The pace for investment is accelerating. Today, both companies invest billions of dollars annually in our networks. And the underlying investment of 5G will only go higher as the technology continues to roll out across the country. This is a big task for both companies, but the combined company will be up for the challenge. This transaction comes at a critical time for the West. As part of the transaction, Rogers is committing to investing $2.5 billion to build 5G networks in Western Canada, which will enhance Western competitiveness, offer consumers and businesses more choice and improve services, and help close the digital divide between urban and rural communities faster. These investments will create up to 3,000 net new jobs across Western Canada, including 500 jobs at a new National Centre of Technology and Engineering Excellence in Calgary. Today, there are 2 million households in Canada that don't have access to high-speed internet. As part of our growing investments, Rogers will commit an additional $1 billion to create the new Rogers Rural and Indigenous Connectivity Fund, dedicated to connecting underserved communities across Western Canada. The opportunity to learn online or participate in the digital economy should not be decided by your postal code. As part of this process, we will consult with Indigenous communities to help create new Indigenous-owned and operated internet service providers to leverage our expanded networks and create sustainable local connectivity solutions. Finally, we will extend our Connected for Success program nationally, delivering low-cost, high-speed broadband to low-income Canadians, including seniors receiving guaranteed income supplements, residents in rent-geared-to-income housing, and individuals receiving disability benefits, anywhere our combined company offers internet services. In summary, we are committed to doing our part to set the table for future generations of Canadians and prepare us for our digital future. The transaction comes at a significant inflection point for Canada and is critical to enabling the investments needed to make national 5G a reality and to close the digital divide. Ensemble.
Together, we will build a better Canada.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. We'll now turn to Shaw Communications. Mr. Shaw, you have the floor for 6 minutes.
Great, thank you so much. Good morning, Madam Chair and committee members. My name is Brad Shaw, and I'm Executive Chair and CEO of Shaw Communications. I'm joined by Paul McAleese, our President, and Chima Nikadurum, our Vice President of Government Relations. We are pleased to be here today to discuss Shaw joining with Rogers to build a bright and bold future for Canada. In 1971, my dad staked his future on bringing a new cable TV service to a small community near where I was born, Sherwood Park, Alberta, so our neighbors could have real choice of what they watched on TV. And just to let you know, we did start with 3 channels when we launched our service, so we had a lot of choice there. Since then, our customers have been a guiding force for our family, our board, and our dedicated team of employees. Our customers are also the guiding force behind the transaction we are talking about here today. Shaw has passionately provided Canadians with a cable and satellite TV, phone, internet, and more recently, wireless services. That passion has been backed by tens of billions of dollars of wireline and satellite investment over the past 5 decades, and over $7 billion of wireless investment over the past 5 years. We are incredibly proud of what we have built and how we have connected Canadians. However, as we look ahead, we see our economy and country at a turning point. We need a new approach. We have to address the scale needed to build the networks of the future. In order for Canada to compete in the digital era, all Canadians, regardless of where they live, need connectivity that leads the world in coverage, resilience, and innovation. This is critical for economic and job growth, as well as for long-term access to the best and most affordable options for consumers and businesses. Canada's future success depends on a forward-looking approach for connectivity. We need to bridge the digital divide to connect underserved rural and Indigenous communities in the West, but we also need to build out a new 5G platform. This is an investment challenge of unprecedented scale. We cannot look backwards as we might have worked in the past. As we look forward, it is clear that Shaw cannot build what Canada needs on our own. By joining forces with Rogers, I am confident that we can create something extraordinary for Canada. Over the past several decades, Shaw and Rogers have built powerful cable networks using similar technologies in distinct geographies. Shaw in BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Northern Ontario, while Rogers has been in Ontario, New Brunswick, and Newfoundland. Joining these networks through this transaction, national provider with the scale necessary to invest in the next generation of converged networks that we need for our future and Canada's future. This transaction will drive higher levels of investment across the country, but especially in those parts economically. Combining our company's unique complement of wireline, satellite, wireless, and Wi-Fi assets kickstarts the investment and innovation we need to accelerate and expand to reach a 5G and other next generation networks in the West. On top of that, the transaction will combine two incredibly talented teams of people. Together, we will be able to compete more effectively and deliver so much more to Canadians that we could if we stayed apart. Competition will intensify, with Shaw and Rogers now able to leverage a national platform. In fact, in recent days, we have already seen certain of our competitors going to capital markets to raise money to accelerate investment in broadband and 5G. The entrepreneurial spirit that defines the West is firmly rooted in my family and in our company's DNA. As we were considering this step, it was very important to me and my family that the combined company have a strong presence and commitment to the West and to Calgary. This commitment is very early on in this process. Over 50 plus years in this business, we have cherished every customer we've had. Combining with Rogers is the best path to ensure my family's legacy continues to benefit our customers, our employees, and communities for decades to come. Every Canadian will benefit from the better, broader, and more competitive connectivity that our combined company can provide, especially in underserved communities. Just as we are so proud of what our company employees have built, we are equally proud to join forces with Rogers. This is a natural, logical step forward for our company, our employees, our customers, and our country as a whole. We cannot wait to start building for the future together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll now begin our round of questions. Our first round of questions, 6-minute round. We will start with MP Poilievre. You have the floor for 6 minutes.
Thank you, witnesses. I'd like to begin with Mr. Shaw. First of all, Mr. Shaw, thank you to your family for all you've contributed to Canada, and in particular to my province of birth, Alberta, where you and your father and your extended family are legendary. This is obviously a big development for the industry. I'd like to go through some of the specifics. First of all, Shaw exercised its right to purchase discounted spectrum that was set aside in order to promote additional competition, a spectrum that is only available to providers other than the big three, TELUS, Bell, and Rogers. But through this union, Rogers, the combined entity, including Rogers, would then presumably own that spectrum. What do you propose to do to remedy the fact that the spectrum became the property of Shaw through a set aside that was supposed to be to exclude Rogers, but now Rogers would, under this proposed union, possess it?
Great, thank you for the question. I'll just comment, and maybe Joe wants to add to this. But listen, whenever with our commitment in wireless, and we sold a lot of assets in media and data centers, and about $6 billion in 2017 to get into wireless. Certainly, our commitment, as we've spent over $7 billion the last 5 years, has certainly shown our commitment to make sure we were delivering value and choice to Canadians. And I think we've actually shown that we have done that. But really, as we look at this is really about the future and where we're going and the networks we need to build. And even though we think, Shaw's has the scale and size to be able to deliver that, we really believe to accelerate investment, to provide choice and competition is critically important for Canadians.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. But are you proposing that the unified enterprise of Rogers and Shaw would continue to own this discounted spectrum, or would it be spun off to another smaller competitor in order to preserve choice in the marketplace?
All right.
If I may, Mr. Poilievre.
I want to point out that there's a very robust regulatory process that ISED and will review the transaction, and there'll be a determination of what should happen with the spectrum.
Excuse me, that wasn't my question. Mr. Shaw, what is is it your intention that the spectrum would remain part of the unified enterprise, or would it be spun off to preserve competition?
Well, I think it's very, very important when you look at the two companies coming together, that is important to be able to look at the services and products and opportunities to offer, that you do look at that, because I truly believe that these two companies coming together and the investments going to be made, there'll be as much competition in the future as there will be in the past or has been. And I think that's the opportunity here, and that's what it'll provide for Canadians, and especially in Western Canada.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. You mentioned that your company is invested in satellite. And some believe that the future of wireless communications is satellite rather than fiber. Can you comment on whether you are a believer in that view? And if so, what you think the time frame is for that kind of a transition?
Well, listen, I think there's going to be variety of choice for consumers across, if it's rural or more urban. When I certainly look at it, we built a television network with Shaw Direct, not a satellite two-way. And so, but there is an opportunity for, I think, many providers and many choice and many competitors in the market. And I think it's certainly, as we look forward, we have an opportunity to grow and build with 5G and expand into rural remote. But I also think, listen, we love competition. We love driving choice and innovation. That's what we're here for in those investments. And I think there'll be a variety of providers as we go forward. And, hopefully we're one that people choose to do service with us.
Thank you. Madam Chair, how much time do I have?
1.5 minutes.
The Department of Innovation, Science, and Economic Development had a 2019 report prepared for it on price comparisons for wireline, wireless, and internet services in Canada. And in it, on page 6, it says, international comparison, Canada has the highest or second highest purchasing power parity adjusted prices in all 5 level baskets. Prices in France, the UK, Italy are noticeably lower than most other countries. I'd like to get comment from anyone at either Shaw or Rogers about why you think that the prices in Canada are higher than the average of our peer group.
Mr. Poilievre, it's Joe Natale. Let me say, first of all, the Canadian market is intensely competitive and prices have been coming down dramatically over the last number of years. Just in the last 12 months alone, according to Stats Canada, up 50%. Going back 5 years, data prices in Canada dropped 50%. If you look at the OECD reports that have been published of the 37 member countries, if you look at the CRTC monitoring report, the Wall report put out by ISED, they all come to the same and similar conclusion that Canadian prices, when you look at value received, are roughly in the middle of the pack, and which is quite an accomplishment given we're the second largest country in the world with a very low population density.
Thank you very much, Mr. Natale. We'll now go to our next round of questions. The next round goes to MP Johari. You have the floor for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and welcome to all our witnesses today. And once again, congratulations, Mr. Shaw, on becoming a grandfather. I'd like to focus on the investment. If both Mr. Natale and Mr. Shaw can give us an understanding of, prior to the merger, what type of investment were your organization planning specifically on making sure that we eliminate the digital divide? And as a result of this merger, what kind of investments are planned going forward? And as a result of this merger, by the time it goes to review, is there any halt in the investment that you both your organization were planning? Any of you may start.
It's Joe Natale. Why don't I begin?
Sure.
First of all, it's important to understand that in Canada, we have 2 million households that have insufficient, inadequate, or no high-speed internet. In Western Canada, that's about 600,000 households. There have been many efforts afoot for the last many years to try to close that divide. The challenge is one strictly of economics. To connect a home in urban Canada costs about $3,500. To connect a home in suburban Canada may cost about $5,000 to $10,000. To connect a home in rural Canada can cost $15,000 to $100,000. So we've been working very closely with all different orders of government, whether it's the Universal Broadband Fund, whether it's the CRTC funds, and all the different avenues to put our dollars to work with other government dollars to try to close that gap. We have an obligation to close that gap. Yeah. There's one thing that COVID has taught us is that these services are essential and critical to the future of our country.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Natale. I'm trying to be very specific. Prior to this merger, what type of investment were you planning going forward?
Well, we spend somewhere in the neighborhood of about $2.5 to $3 billion a year on investing in capital and network and infrastructure.
So is that fair to say that will continue going forward?
That will continue and in fact grow going forward. The $1 billion fund that we're creating aimed at rural and Indigenous communities in Western Canada is completely incremental to what we would have done otherwise.
So none of this
our ability of 5G in the West with Shaw and Rogers together, we can go further and we can go faster in 5G right into rural Canada. Would not have been the case alone.
Okay.
So a lot of that is incremental to what we could have done on our own.
Thank you. Let's go to Mr. Shaw. Mr. Shaw, same question. How much were you planning to invest in what area, and will it stop or will it continue as a result of this the merger?
Thank you. I'm going to have Paul start, and I'll maybe add a few comments.
Thank you, Brad. Madam Chair, we spend about $1 billion a year in capital, about $300 million of that in wireless and $700 million in our wireline business, which of course is exclusively in the West. Those investments will continue, but as Joe pointed out, there are opportunities that are Shaw would not be able to take advantage of. And the best example of that is probably rural and remote BC and Alberta in areas that are currently being served by fixed wireless, an asset that relies on a series of spectrum bands, a collection of portfolio of spectrum that we simply don't have today. Sort of the 25-year head start that the incumbents have had on this means that while we have participated in the recent auctions, we simply don't have the depth of spectrum to be able to provide that product to rural and remote BC and Alberta. And what that means is for many of those communities, they simply have one carrier, a simple monopoly. And the advantage of this synergistic marriage is that we are able to then go to those communities with a product and do so in a very rapid way to now give them choice in the market. And we also believe that with the benefit of the combination, we'll be able to now reach communities that otherwise would not have been served.
Mr. Shaw, do you want to add anything before I?
No, I would just add that the combined company can accelerate investment, be far beyond what each of us could do on our own. And I think that's really one of the exciting stories here, because as we know, in a vast country of Canada, we just can't get to every rural and remote community. And I think this will provide choice and competition that we wouldn't see otherwise.
So do we really need a merger to be able to make sure that the two organizations would be able to align their investment? Mr. Natal, do we really need to merge to ensure that your investment both are aligned? Because neither of you are increasing your future investment. You're just combining it to accelerate. So why do we need a merger?
Because together we can do more. Together we can go further and go faster. This is a business of scale. This is a business where we spend capital that has a 10-year payback or more, and every day we make decisions about where to put that capital. This is an opportunity to take the breadth and depth of Shaw's fiber network in the West, combine it with our wireless capability in the West, and bring that together to create the best of both worlds. And therefore, every incremental dollar we spend, the 3 plus the 1 can do even more incredible things, mainly aimed at rural Canada, mainly aimed at 5G. And it's important at this point in time because we're about to enter the biggest investment in a generation. $26 billion will be spent in Canada to deliver 5G.
Thank you very much. Notre prochain tour, c'est député.
Our next turn is MP Lemire. My question is for Mr. Natal. You stated that it's too early to speculate on the issue of whether or not the companies will be obliged to divest some of their activities in order that they have the permission of the federal regulatory authorities. So can you explain to us how, if Rogers can keep all activities of both Shaw and Rogers, and how that would help in terms of competitiveness and also affordability of telecommunication services?
Well, through the course of the next 12 months, we'll be going through 3 different regulatory processes. The Competition Bureau to look at exactly the question of competition, the CRTC to look at the question around license transfers, and ISED to look at the question of spectrum of all sorts, set aside and otherwise. And with respect to the Competition Bureau and the CRTC, these are both public consultations that involve an opportunity for any Canadian to voice their thoughts and voice their views. And through a considered process, an outcome will be achieved. It's hard for me to sit here and speculate a few weeks into the announcement as to how any one of those processes may end up. It'll take the better part of 9 to 12 months to get to conclusion. I would tell you one thing, though, is that we're going to approach it from the point of view of being thoughtful and being collaborative and looking at how do we solve some of the broader problems that exist within the telecommunications industry. We've got 2 million Canadians that don't have access to good internet services. Some have none at all. We have an opportunity to change the affordability equation with our Connected for Success program and extending that, doubling that to the entire country where we serve our customers with internet. We have a chance to lead the world in 5G. Canada has done well to lead the world in 4G, but here we go again. 5G is a huge investment. 5G will cost 70% more than it did to deliver 4G. And 5G will be at the heart of everything that we do in this country, whether it's a small business, whether it's all aspects of business as a whole to deliver that competitiveness. So together, these are the capabilities that will make a difference. I do believe that scale matters, and the ability to bring two teams together with two balance sheets and two capabilities will allow Canada to lead in the future of the digital economy.
Merci pour votre réponse.
Thank you for your answer. In that context, becoming a more powerful player in the industry, do you intend in your strategic plan to become more active in Quebec, where you have little presence? I thought that Shaw only provided satellite TV, and this is through this proposed merger that I heard about Shaw's other activities, and I wonder if you might be present in Quebec at some point.
Quebec is a very important home and province for us as Rogers. Rogers, we have 3,000 employees in Quebec. We have 2 million customers in Quebec. Quebec was the home of Fido, and the Fido team now serves Canadians across the country. That Fido team is headquartered in Quebec. All the executive functions around Fido support the business on a national basis out of Quebec. We'll continue to drive the capabilities to deliver 5G and continue to drive opportunities to extend and make the network better in Quebec as the demands increase as a whole. Quebec's a very important place for us. As I said, with 3,000 team members that call Quebec home, we are an active member of the community, and it's a place where we intend to grow as well.
Merci pour
Thank you for your answer. Vincent Arello, the economist, said that the scenario that another Canadian business would be able to participate in the Rogers market, particularly in the West, and compete with you was unlikely, given that the investment necessary to invest in the infrastructure would be immense. What do you think of that?
I'm not sure of the reference to the point, but I would say to you that Canada is a wonderful country. We're blessed with a lot of national resources and capabilities. But Canada is one of the most difficult countries in the world to cover with network technology. Across 5 time zones, we have the second largest geography on the planet. And we have one of the lowest population densities on the planet. And geography and population density are at the heart of what it takes to develop the types of networks that we have in this country. And through the regulatory environment over the last many decades, we've been able to achieve a place where we have some of the best 4G networks in the world, ranked number 1 or number 2 on a regular basis. We have some of the best home internet networks in the world, ranked number 1 or number 2 on a regular basis. In fact, during COVID, our networks performed better than almost every other network in the world. At the heart of it is the ability to invest a little bit at a time every single year over decades so that we can reach the far corners of this immense country and we can serve all Canadians with that capability. And that takes a huge commitment, a huge scale, and a lot of money to do so.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Désolé.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Round of questions goes to MP Massey. You have the floor for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for our witnesses being here today. I've worked with some of you over the years, and I appreciate that relationship. There's been lots of positive things that have taken place in the industry, some challenges as well, too. The presentation that you provided, though, you promised increasing jobs, new investment, lower prices, and to reach markets that you wouldn't go before, be it Aboriginal or be it the rural remote. I mean, these are promises that would make a robber baron blush. I mean, there are certainly, aspects that, would indicate, some positive attributes, but at the same time, how do you kind of fulfill your plan of efficiencies if you're going in the exact opposite direction of your business plans that you employ right now?
Why don't I start, Mr. Mass, and then I would ask maybe Mr. Prevost to comment as well on this topic. As you'd imagine, we've spent a lot of time looking at how does 2 + 2 = 5 as we bring the two organizations together. At the heart of it is the fact that we both spend a lot of capital on networks and capabilities. By making that capital expenditure complementary versus duplicative, we can go further and go faster. And that's the heart of the synergy. You know, if we're both busy building networks one on top of each other in certain parts of Canada, when we bring the two companies together, we can take a portion of one of our networks to be the network for the combined business, and then we could take the money we would have spent on the duplicative network and extend further and faster into rural Canada. And that by definition creates jobs, and that by definition makes us a greater competitive force because we have that ability.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I guess though, I'm not seeing how, you know, I guess, you know, eliminating a competitor is going to be advantageous for the long run for competition. That's a big issue for myself. But with that in mind, though, with the spectrum auction, I want to make sure this is clear. You're saying that you would keep the Shaw Freedom Mobile carve-out they got as part of your business operations. I want to ensure that's it. That's not going to be spun off as part of your plan to put this to regulators right now. You're going to keep that. Is that correct? Yes or no?
Mr. Mass, unfortunately, there are very strict rules about what I can say regarding spectrum matters. We're in a very specific quiet period in advance of the upcoming spectrum auction. What I can say is that we intend to engage openly and constructively with the regulators, including ISED, about every aspect of this merger, including spectrum.
Okay.
And maybe I'll just leave it at that. Like, you know, at the end of the day, what we want to do is make sure that we have all the tools we need to continue to grow and develop the capability for Canadians and compete on a broader scale.
Well, yeah, and the problem is this is a big fly in the soup of the next spectrum auction because now we have undetermined plans about how to go about that. I've been a big critic about the way Canada has done this. We've acquired about $22 billion in spectrum auctions without requiring, you know, some of it to be used, as opposed to what I'd rather prefer is see lower amounts coming in for the spectrum auction, but higher accountability to lower prices and reach Canadians. So you don't have to come up with the capital and do the borrowing market, you know, that's necessary there. So in your submission right now, you're saying that you would actually freeze customers, I believe, under Freedom Mobile for 3 years. Would you freeze prices for your other current Rogers customers as well too? And then also too, I believe that you mentioned it was mentioned about data cap as well too. Are those going to be preserved at the lower end of your plans? So anything you can comment about, you know, those elements?
Well, first of all, I think it's important to acknowledge that prices have been coming down in Canada for the last many, many years.
Well, they can't go up, that's for sure.
Well, Canadian prices are sit right in the middle of the pack with respect to any of the analyses done by the OECD, the Wall report, the monitoring report. And my goal is to keep driving that affordability. You know, despite the geography disadvantage, despite the population density disadvantage, despite the cost of spectrum and equipment in US dollars, et cetera, we're committed to continue driving prices downward. And you know, 5G will give us the next big opportunity to do that. Everyone keeps talking about the killer apps around 5G and all the great things that it will do for IoT and, you know, mobile edge computing, et cetera. The first real killer app of 5G is dynamic spectrum management, the ability to make more efficient use of spectrum and therefore bring costs down. By bringing costs down with 5G, we have the opportunity to transfer those savings onto the consumer. And that's been the beginning, middle, and the goal of our industry every step of the way. That's why prices have come down.
Yeah, no, thank you. I only have a couple minutes, so I'll be real quick with this question, Madam Chair. And I agree, there's been some good things that have taken place, but, and I know it's costly to get to certain areas, but is it not true that you have certain areas where your profit margins are at 44% as well too? Is that true?
Well, if you look at the true economic profit of Rogers over the last 5 years, it roughly sits at about 8% on average over the last 5 years. I would say to you, for the first 25 years of wireless, we made no money. We were not cumulative cash flow positive until about 10 years ago. In any country, you make more profit and more money in more densely populated areas and less money in other areas.
Mr. Natale, my apologies, but you're
Thank
over
you
time.
to the witnesses and Madam Chair.
Thank you. We'll now start our second round of questions, and our first round of questions will go to MP Dreeshen. You have the floor for 5 minutes.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, and I do apologize. Hopefully my feed is coming in okay. I was part of the reason why we were a little late this morning, and I apologize for that. Certainly, I'm looking for adequate rural and remote broadband. And like so many of the families and friends and so on in rural Canada and here in rural Alberta, online education, all of these things are basically something that we've been asking for a number of years. But my first question is to Rogers. I know that your company has made some very impressive commitments to my constituents and for all of Western Canada if your merger agreement with Shaw is approved. Of course, one of the wild cards in all of this is the upcoming decision of the CRTC on wholesale access rates. So we know it was August 15th of 2019 where the CRTC set final wholesale internet rates to facilitate greater competition and promote innovative broadband services and affordable prices for consumers. But the final rates were lower than the interim rates announced in 2016 and retroactive to the date which they were set. So the announced rates were 15 to 77% lower than the interim rates. When the Liberal government order in council, which was released in August of 2020, effectively called into question the expert opinion of the CRTC, which had spent 6 years studying the issue. But then on May 14th last year, we heard testimony from Rogers, and just to quote it, you had said, should those rates go into effect, there would be a dramatic loss of revenue. This certainly would put pressure on the infrastructure builders and make it more difficult to expand our services, end quote. So my question is this: if the CRTC upholds its decision on wholesale access rates or only slightly modifies it, will Rogers uphold the commitments that you've made with respect to jobs, connectivity, and investments? And are you prepared to confirm to this committee that you will still follow through on what you promised?
Thank you, Mr. Dreeshen. Why don't I start and ask Mr. Prevost to comment? You have my word and my commitment that we will make the investments we've talked about in Western Canada around connectivity to rural Canadians, around investment in jobs and 5G. You're quite right that the interim rates and then the ruled rates don't make us happy. They sit at about 70% below our cost. So it's very hard to build network where a reseller gets an advantage that's below the cost of building that network. What we've seen in different countries across the world where that's happened is that the large infrastructure-based providers have slowed down or stopped building. And the last thing we want to do is get into a place where people stop building. But as I said to you, with respect to this coming together of Rogers and Shaw, you have my commitment. Dean, do you want to spend a minute on this topic or a quick moment? Because this is something that's near and dear to your heart and your role.
Absolutely. Yeah. As a Calgarian, MP Dreeshen, just south of you, this is incredibly important to me. And the $1 billion we've committed is part and parcel of being a telecom company where building is at the heart of what we do. We design, we build, we operate, we invest to maintain it. And then we go to new territory that we haven't built and continue and do the exact same thing. The opportunity here is to extend where we never could have otherwise and to take the money that would move from duplication into addition faster and further than we would have otherwise gone, and bring added competition to single carrier communities and bring new services to communities that have never experienced it before. It's at the heart of who we are. And as a Calgarian with my family here, this is our commitment that we will build and extend that $1 billion across this province and across BC as well.
When you mentioned the $1 billion, and that's where I want to go next, basically you said that these new synergies are expected to exceed about $1 billion annually. can you explain exactly what those synergies are, what we can expect to see, and again, the key thing is willing to commit to that without downsizing. I know that we're looking at the job numbers that are being mentioned, and I'm certainly excited about the the new tech jobs that are going to be coming here to use the great mental capacity that we have here in this province. So if you could just explain to me what you sort of see as the synergies that you're describing on that $1 billion investment.
I'll be happy to do that, Mr. Dreeshen. Think of it this way. The Shaw family and the Shaw Corporation over 50 years has been building fiber throughout Western Canada. The Rogers organization, Rogers family has been doing the same thing through Ontario, New Brunswick, and Newfoundland, the places where we have been traditionally the cable TV and internet operator. That fiber is incredibly valuable to the future. Incredibly valuable, not just to the internet
Mr.
business.
Natali,
yeah.
My apologies, but we're over time again. I'm just going to remind members to please keep an eye on the cards because we're already running late, and I want to make sure everyone gets their turn. With that, I will now turn it over to MP Lambropoulos. You have the floor for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And my questions are going to go to Rogers as well. And a lot of the topics that I'd like to cover have already been covered to some extent, but I would like to get clearer answers. For years, big telecom companies such as Rogers have been saying that connection to rural and Indigenous communities are projects that perhaps are too capital intensive to be profitable. And so there's been resistance. And even when governments have tried to incentivize this type of infrastructure building and has tried to incentivize big companies to do it, the answer has been no, because it's not worth it for the companies. And now all of a sudden, when we're trying to get an approval, or when you're trying to get an approval for this merger, you're committing to billions of dollars to be put into this type of infrastructure that would connect rural and Indigenous communities. So I'm wondering what changed and what you can tell us about that convenient timing.
Sure, I'll start, and then again, Dean, please feel free. It'll also help answer Mr. Dreeshen's question that I went over on, and that is that fiber is the backbone of our networks. Whether it's our wireline networks for cable or our wireless networks require fiber to work, especially in a 5G world. And by bringing the companies together, we get the full benefit of the fiber that has been built by the Shaw organization over the last 50 years, combined with our wireless capability. Well, there's synergy in that. The Rogers organization would have spent in the neighborhood of $1 to $2 billion over the next many years replicating that fiber. So the opportunity here is to leverage that synergy and then reinvest it into going further and going faster overall. The average capital we look at today is measured in about a 10-year payback. That's today's capital in urban and suburban Canada. In rural Canada, the payback shoots way up, and that has always become the challenge. So if we can find ways of driving synergy and reinvesting it in rural, then that's a good thing for Canadians and a good thing for the future of the industry.
Thank you, Joe. And let me add, this is on top of what we've already been doing prior to the announcement of the combination in partnership with SWIFT, with EORN, which is the Eastern Ontario Regional Network, which was announced just a week ago, and over $1 billion committed as part of the Universal Broadband Fund. So this is all additive to the efforts that we have underway.
Obviously, the reason why we're here is because of a competition issue, and we would like to see prices drop with regards to internet and telecommunications in general. It was one of our platform commitments going into the last election, and our government has that as one of its goals. So, you know, we've often said that we may be imposing things in the near future, mandating things, and one of those things is that you grant access to smaller providers. And you've said in the past that if we were to do this, investments and invest less in infrastructure on the ones that you are allowing access to smaller companies. So does that threat still stand at this point? And why exactly, if you do offer the best service, why is it a problem for smaller companies who have to pay you anyways for access to actually gain access to your networks?
We've come to a place in Canada around 4G networks where we have some of the best in the world. And that's been based on the premise that if you put your money in the ground and invest in great networks, where the payback is 10 years or more, in the case of wireless, 25 years, there's an opportunity to get return on that capital and on that money. We have no aversion to reselling parts of our network on a wholesale basis to provider that might come along with the right value proposition as a whole. It's mandating that resale is the thing that we take opposition to, because in that particular case, then we change the forward economics of the industry, and it curtails our ability to invest in rural Canada. You know, we are the ones that will end up investing in rural Canada. It won't be the resellers. We will have the balance sheet and the capability and the ambition to connect every Canadian or make 5G the focus across every corner of Canada. Where there have been reseller markets across the globe, they've largely focused in highly densely populated urban centers. And given the fact that prices have been coming down across all brands, you know, the government's own telecom quarterly report said that prices have dropped 10 to 18% since January 2020. Yeah.
My apologies. I'm not sure if you could see me waving, but unfortunately, you're out of time. Our next round of questions goes to Député Lemire. Vous avez 2 minutes et demie.
Mr. Lemire, you have 2.5 minutes. Thank you, Madam Chair. So I will carry on with Mr. Natale. To get the CRTC's authorizations, do you not believe that you would be, it would be in your interest to sell Freedom Mobile rather, and in order to maintain, because we know that if there are 4 service providers, then we have more affordable prices?
Thank you for the question. 80% of Shaw Corporation's business is their cable and landline internet and TV business. And it's roughly about 97% of the company's cash flow. The CRTC will review whether the license for the cable and internet business should be transferred to Rogers as part of this proposed merger. I would say to you that those businesses really do not overlap in any material way. We are the cable provider in Ontario, New Brunswick, and Newfoundland, and Shaw is the cable provider in the 4 Western provinces. So we will certainly put our thoughts forward with respect to the CRTC, but we fully expect that, like the cable industry has grown up through the process of combination and amalgamation, this is yet one more opportunity to combine for strength and amalgamation. Bear in mind that even when Rogers and Shaw comes together, we would still be smaller than Bell Canada as it relates to the wireline business. And therefore that critical mass and balance sheet will only serve to support the future needs of Canadians. As it relates to the wireless question, we're open and flexible as to how to best solve any questions the Competition Bureau may have on that front. And once we have a chance to sit down with the Competition Bureau through a public process that will listen to voices from across all corners of Canada, be happy to have a discussion about how to best strike that balance. It's premature at this point to do something or say something where we haven't really started that process in earnest.
Mr. Shaw, est-ce que vous avez...
Mr. Shaw, do you have an opinion on the issue of the preference of whether or not to sell Freedom Mobile to ensure that there is competition?
Thank you for the question. No, I think Joe said it very well. It's, when we look at it and what's required going forward, I think when you look at the overall investment and what Rogers is committing in the combined company, it'll... Sorry, do I have a red card already?
Unfortunately, you do.
Okay.
Hopefully you can pick it up on the next round.
Okay, thank you.
Our next round of questions goes to MP Massey. You have the floor for 2.5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Back to Rogers, just with regards to your hostile attempted takeover of Cogeco, is it the departure of that led to this? Is that it seems that you're in an acquisition stage as a company versus that of a growing through your own operations. Is that accurate portrayal, or is Cogeco still on the table with this Shaw now, and then perhaps a revisit to Cogeco?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Mass. Go back to the strategy discussions at the Rogers board table over the last few decades, including when Ted Rogers was at that table up until 12 years ago when he passed. There's been a conversation around deepening our presence in been a question on the table from the very beginning, hence the stake in Cogeco, and hence the always looking at opportunities to go further and go farther. That's why we bought Fundy Cable in New Brunswick. We bought Cable Atlantic in Newfoundland, and having an things helps us get the scale to make the investments. This is a scale business with massive fixed costs. So adding Cogeco or adding Shaw brings those efficiencies, fiber, spectrum, and allows us to do things that wouldn't have been otherwise the case. We needed to answer the Cogeco question. We held the shares for 20 years. Quebec remains a very important market. The timing of these is not something that was anticipated. Timing happens and the timing happens. The Shaw opportunity came into light in the last little while, and we said to ourselves at Rogers, this is a great opportunity to drive forward on the strategy and deliver the benefits for Canadians and the abilities that scale will allow for the future.
I guess I know I'll wrap up there, Madam Chair, because I was over the last segment there. Thank you to the witnesses.
Thank you very much. We'll now go to Député Généreux. Vous avez...
Mr. Généreux, you have 5 minutes. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the witnesses. Mr. Natale and Mr. Shaw, you also spoke about a turning point in terms of communications in Canada, but also I think you were talking about on a global scale to make yourselves more productive and attractive to be able to develop more quickly, and that's why you want to merge today. So what are the main components of this turning point in your analysis of where we are in terms of the world communications? We started a study on affordability and availability of internet. And I think we've heard from some other witnesses that there'd be some 100,000 satellites in the atmosphere. So do you see this as a component that really sped up your decision to merge? Either one of you could answer.
Why don't I start? Thank you for the question. I would say there is an inflection point right now in Canada and frankly across the globe. 5G will be the biggest generational investment in wireless since the beginning of wireless. 5G in Canada it'll be 70% more investment than 4G, and it'll lead to great opportunity. A recent Accenture study said that it'll create $40 billion of additional GDP. It'll create 250,000 sustained jobs and 154,000 net network building construction jobs. Well, that's a big move for any country, and that's a big opportunity for us as a nation. We led the world in 4G. We were only ever second to South Korea. We fought, tooth and nail between first and second. Bear in mind that South Korea is the size of New Brunswick with a population of 51 million people. So we did well in 4G. And our goal is to do very well in 5G because it means everything to the future of what we can do with that technology, what it means for agritech, what it means for transportation, what it means for resources, oil and gas, what it means for healthcare. The list goes on. And we need a modern policy framework and viewpoint that really focuses on that opportunity. Because in 5G, we're not competing with one another, we're competing with other nations and what it means to the future of Canada. Imagine where we would be without 4G in Canada. 5G is a massive opportunity. As it relates to satellite technology, I would say to you that we'll continue to develop and nurture many technologies, fixed wireless, fiber, satellite. It's going to take an assortment of technologies to solve the problem.
Monsieur Shaw?
Mr. Shaw, would you like to add something? I can't see you on the screen anymore.
Joe's question or Joe's response was robust. We'll leave it at that. We have nothing to add.
Okay, merci.
Okay, thank you. Now, Mr. Natali, has the pandemic been a factor in your decision to merge the two businesses?
Est-ce qu'elle l'a accéléré?
Or did it speed it up?
Well, I'll tell you, the pandemic has taught us a lot. It's taught us a lot about our business and a lot about the importance of our business. It's taught us three things, I think, overall. Number one, that network quality really matters. Really matters. We saw consumption go up overnight. We saw 3 years of data consumption in about 3 weeks in a moment. And Canada performed well, very well. Number two, it taught us that our networks are truly amongst some of the best in the world. In the middle of the pandemic, we maintained our rankings, number one or number two in the world for our wireless download speeds, number one and number two in the world for our home internet speeds. And that came directly from PwC. And the third thing it underscored for me personally is, I got a lot of letters and emails and notes from rural Canadians, from rural mayors, from rural members of government, and they were heartbreaking to read. Heartbreaking to read because of the fact that they were left behind in this incredible moment. And we had no real tools at our disposal to close that gap. And I said to myself, there's one thing I really want to focus on in my career, in the years I have left in my career. I've devoted my whole career to this industry. And that is, we have to do whatever it takes. We have an obligation to do whatever it takes in partnership with government to close the digital divide, the connectivity divide in rural Canada, and the affordability divide for those Canadians who live in low-income areas and low-income lives and don't have what it takes to access the internet and the capability of the internet. So did COVID directly lead to this? I wouldn't say it directly led to this, but COVID created a context around the importance of scale and the importance of rural and the importance of affordability like no other.
Thank you very much. Merci. Our next round of questions goes to MP Assassi. You have the floor for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I could ask Mr. Natal a few questions. You were just reviewing for us your activities over the course of the last year. Obviously, it's been quite challenging for all Canadian businesses. What would you say about the profit margins that were announced for Rogers at the end of 2020?
Well, if you look at the profit of Rogers, the way that we measure profit, the way that our shareholders measure profit, is based on the return on capital. In a capital-intensive business, really comes down to—
Could you just give us some figures by the end of 2020? I understand that profit margins for Rogers were 12.20%. Is that correct?
Our return on capital last year was 6%. On average, over the last 5 years, it was 8%.
Okay. So, Mr. Natal, obviously, a lot of Canadians are concerned about the possible acquisition of Shaw. Would you agree with me that less competition should very much concern Canadians?
I think the most important factor around competition is having strong players that have the ability to invest in the future with new technologies and new ideas that will become the competitive landscape of the future.
Sure. And but in your opening remarks, you said the Canadian sector is intensely competitive. Did you not say that?
It is.
So undermining competition and having fewer players, you would agree with me, can very much be a cause for concern.
If you look at the competition in Canada right now, I'll give you an example. Last year, 4.2 million Canadians changed their wireless provider. 4.2 million Canadians in the middle of—
But you would agree that your company is pretty profitable, correct?
I would agree that our company is very competitive, and I agree that our company—
But is it profitable? Is it profitable?
Yes, profitable. Is profitable.
Okay.
6% last year, 8% in the last many years. Yes.
So you would agree with me that the reason why this acquisition is happening is not because you're really hurting that You're desperate and you need to do these things to come up with savings, correct?
This acquisition is about looking to the future, not the present.
Okay, right? It's looking to the future. But looking to the future, would you agree that as a general rule, Canadians are very much concerned?
I think Canadians want the ability to get services that are affordable. They want to see prices continue to come down, and they want their telecom service providers to be able to invest in that future and deliver what's next.
And you keep referring to a study amongst the OECD countries that indicates that in terms of affordability, we're in the middle of the pack insofar as the over 30 OECD countries are concerned, correct?
Correct, yes. The OECD and the Wall report and the CRTC monitoring report.
Is that something that we should be proud of? Or are we supposed to say that's just amazing? Or do you think consumers have every right to be concerned?
I think we're all committed to finding ways of delivering more value and more affordability. I think our Connected for Success program is a great example of something that's very important to us that does exactly that.
But connecting to rural areas, if I am to refresh my memory, I remember in the past you've said that you really can't see a business case for that program, correct?
It requires a longer return on that business case. Right now, the capital.
But you said there was no real business case. In the past, you have said that in terms of rural connectivity, that the government is pushing way too hard. There's no real business case. Do you recall having made that statement?
There's a business case with government collaboration, like there has been with the Universal Broadband Fund, like there has been with the eORN initiative, the SWIFT initiative, the CRTC funding. These are real programs that are making a big difference.
But you don't recall ever having said in the past that there was no real business case to be made about the government's concern about rural connectivity. You have no recollection of that?
It's very challenging on your own to build a business case for connectivity that requires a 50 or 100-year payback. It's very challenging. And now, together with government, with new technologies that exist, because 5G creates a new way of covering rural Canada that didn't exist in the past. And that business case just got better because of 5G and what's around the corner.
Thank you. My time is up.
Thank you very much. And just a gentle reminder to perhaps not talk over each other so that the interpreters can do their work. We'll now start our third round of questions. The first round goes to MP Baldinelli. You have the floor for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the witnesses for being with us today. I just want to build on some of the questioning that had taken part earlier from some of my colleagues. It really essentially revolves around the idea of why now. Mr. Natale, you talk about the notion of scale and scope, and $26 billion being required for that move to the 5G. We've heard about the wholesale access rates and the spectrum decisions that are upcoming. So why now is that this merger required?
Well, the timing of why now is really linked to the Shaw organization and Brad and when they decided to make the decision. What I would say why now is because we're at an inflection point. Every generation or so, this industry re-ups. Every generation or so, this industry makes a massive investment in the future. And then you work your way over the next decade or so to climb out of that investment, and you hope to make the right return, and you count on a regulatory framework and consistency around that framework so that you can make some money coming out the other end. We're at the doorstep of that next inflection point. And I would encourage maybe Mr. Shaw, Mr. McAleese to add to that, because I don't want to take away from their time or their narrative.
Great, thanks, Joe. I'll maybe have Paul start, and then I can add a little bit at the end.
Thank you, Brad. Yeah, I'll just echo Joe's comments. We are faced with really an opportunity going forward in 5G that we are challenged by in terms of the depth of spectrum assets that we have and the ability to reach the rural and remote communities that so desperately needed, as some of you have commented on before. So this is really just a unique moment in time for us, and in combination with when Brad and the family looked to trade the asset essentially in for equity in Rogers, this felt like the right time.
Thank you. And going back again, Mr. Natale, we're talking about use of words of importance of scale and strong players and $26 billion required for this investment in 5G, and you're still talking about the need for a robust competition. But at the same time, when you're talking about strong players and scope and scale, could you not see further consolidation happening in our sector as opposed to increased competition?
It's hard to speculate on what might happen to the future of the industry over time. This is a question that's been debated in the telecom industry for a very long time. It's been debated around the notion of foreign ownership. And, do we just open up the border and let US companies come in and buy out Canadian telecommunications providers? These are broader questions that have a lot to do with, what is it with respect to sovereignty and security in a nation, how many players is enough, et cetera. At the heart of it, in any country in the world where you have a number of strong players with the ability to invest and then go toe-to-toe, then that's the greatest source of competition, is strong players that can go toe-to-toe. Shaw and Rogers will be far stronger, far more capable, and can go much further toe-to-toe, whether it's building out or going right up against the competition. I believe that in my heart. I look at competitive intensity, with my team every Monday, every Tuesday for this sort of what happened this weekend discussion. And I would tell you that every weekend, it's a big, big fight for the next customer. And the strength of the company matters in terms of that fight.
Thank you. Also, just quickly, in terms of the announcement and the impressive investment decisions, $6.5 million into Western Canada, 2.5 of that into 5G specifically. Are those investment decisions kind of contingent on Shaw retaining its 5G carve out and its ability to take part in the upcoming spectrum auction?
Mr. Baldwinelli, I really can't comment on anything to do with the upcoming spectrum auction. I would say to you that those are bona fide commitments based on this transaction receiving approval. They're things that we believe really matter to the future of Canada and Western Canada especially.
Great, thank you. Madam Chair?
8 seconds.
No? Okay, well, thank you. Thank you to the witnesses.
Thank you very much. Our next round of questions goes to MP Erskine Smith. You have the floor for 5 minutes.
Thanks very much, Madam Chair. To summarize what I've heard so far, I've heard that the deal will accelerate investments to expand your networks to rural and remote areas that you are largely, from what I understand, planning to already make. You've also said, though, that it will improve competition in the long term. And I have to admit, I find that particular submission to be a confusing one. So Mr. Shaw, in a brief submitted on January 15th of this year to this committee, Shaw stated that regional facilities-based competitors, Shaw included, as well as Videotron and Eastlink, are rapidly disrupting the dominance of the big three and driving unprecedented levels of affordability and choice for consumers. Went on to say Freedom's entry has shifted the market dynamics, causing the big three to drastically reduce overage fees and offer significantly more data for much lower prices. So in this deal, we lose that competition and disruption. We lose a pressure towards affordability. And if we take your past statements of January of this year at face value, shouldn't we expect a negative impact on affordability of telecommunication services in this country if this deal goes through?
Well, I'll start and maybe Paul can add. I think certainly as we look, as an entrepreneurial family and company, you're always looking forward and you're looking to the future. And I think, for all the moves and our commitments we've made up until now, we certainly have driven competition, driven choice, and driven a lot of value for Canadians. But as we look at it, we say, wow, how do we really make sure we're prepared to make the right investments? And I think, as Joe has said, the combination of these two companies will drive unparalleled investment as we go forward.
But I'm not speaking to investment. I'm speaking to affordability on price. So if you could restrict your comments specifically to price, isn't this a net negative in driving? We're going to lose competition that has previously driven down prices in your own statements.
Yeah, well, I truly believe that. Listen, we all like to win, and in this country, I think Shaw's proven it's willing to do anything with innovation, customer choice, and value. And I think Rogers has been the same. And I think the combination with a stronger competitor in Canada will drive value that and choice and innovation, new services for both business and consumers.
But not lower prices.
Well, absolutely.
Do you think a lack of a competitor will drive lower prices? Despite previous statements from January of this year, this says the increased competitor has driven lower prices, that increased competition has in fact lowered prices. So now a lack of competition will do the same thing.
No, I just think, listen, with the amount of investment and what we're focused on to provide more competition in rural remote and for all Canadians, I think for sure you're going to, we want to gain market share. We want to. So I think with that, you're going to continue to make sure you do the right things to provide that choice and to provide that value. We're not about to sit there and go, wow, how do we raise prices to take less market share? How do we get that return on that 10-year cycle of capital? How do we make sure we make the right choices as this joint company to create the new opportunities for Canadians and new value and new choice?
Well, let's talk about return and value, but for consumers and for the government of Canada, because it has been long-standing policy, not only of a Liberal government, but of Conservative governments for over the past decade to really encourage competition, encourage a fourth wireless carrier to ensure we have competition and that prices are driven down. Now, there's a financial cost to the government in restricting the auction rules. I think you'd agree with that. So the government lives with that cost in order to increase competition and benefit consumers. But if the government subsidizes smaller regional players like Shaw at auction, only to see those same players subsequently acquired by one of the big three, isn't the government really subsidizing you, your shareholders, and executives as you cash out?
I'll ask Cheeman to comment, and then I'll add some comments after.
MP Erskine Smith, one thing I would like to point out is that, at Shaw, we're really quite proud of what we've done in wireless since we entered the market in 2016. And in that time, including the acquisition of Wind Mobile, the spending on spectrum, and the investment in the network, we've spent about over $1 billion. As of today, Freedom is still not free cash flow positive. And when we take a look at the and during that time, we went from 5 cities to 30 communities, but there's still primarily 30 urban centers in Western Canada. So when we take a look at the need for rural connectivity and the investments required to bring in 5G, it's a huge, huge commitment and a huge, huge undertaking.
I do appreciate 5G is a huge undertaking. That's not responsive to my question, though. I've got 30 seconds left, so my last question is this. The Competition Bureau has said where the big three face a wireless competitor, prices are significantly lower. They've gone on to say wireless disruptors offer the most promising path forward. They drive lower prices, greater choice, and increased levels of innovation. If the Competition Bureau, at a minimum, says this deal can go through, but you got to spin off your wireless business, is it still a deal you're going to move forward with?
First of all, we will work very closely with the Competition Bureau to find a solution to whatever they deem is the appropriate path forward. And I can't comment any further on what we will or won't do until we get into a room with the Competition Bureau and go through their public process, where others will have a chance to offer their views and opinions on the state of competition in Canada. But I would tell you we're committed to competition and the intensity and the affordability that it delivers. It's been that way from the beginning.
Thank you very much. Our next round of questions goes to Député Lemire. Vous avez 2 minutes et demie.
Mr. Lemire, you have 2.5 minutes. Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is to Mr. Shaw, and it is complementary to the one disposed by my colleague. I'm also wondering about the timing of events, because in a brief that is only a couple of years old, sent to our committee on affordability, you said that competitive enterprises that are facilities-based regional competitors are chipping away at the ground of Bell, TELUS, and Rogers, who are the big major players, and driving costs down. So it's in the interest of consumers. So given this information, what are the repercussions of this proposed merger? So I'd ask you about cellular and wireless services, but more specifically.
Great, thanks. I'll have Paul start, and then I can add to that.
Thank you, Brad. We believe that Canada needs dynamic competition, not a magic number of competitors. And the test here really needs to be about how the market is performing. And as you've heard today from a number of witnesses, there has been a significant and rapid decline in the cost of cellular service across Canada. And as much as I would love to be able to take credit and suggest to you that Freedom has been solely responsible, the truth of the matter is that all carriers have had a significant role in driving new TELUS were the first to launch a $99 unlimited talk and text for a year, letting limited use subscribers have a much more affordable way into the sector. And Rogers themselves, led by Joe over the last number of years, were the first to successfully market. Just if you will, Joe, I think has 2.5 million people that have enthusiastically signed on to that plan and today are receiving extraordinarily strong value. The peace of mind that comes with no overage fees, as well as, I suspect, very high customer satisfaction. So it is not simply a matter of how many carriers are in the market, but in fact what they're doing in that market.
I'm going to hold you there because I want to ask another question. In the timing, did you choose to put all your eggs in the Rogers basket? Did you think of other things such as the presence of Videotron for the wireless sector if you're going to sell assets?
Okay.
Mr. Shaw, if you'd like to answer that very quickly.
No, I would just say, listen, the family was, after 50 years in business, very serious about looking at all options. Between Rogers and Shaw is the best choice going forward.
Thank you very much. Our next round of questions goes to MP Massey. You have the floor for 2.5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And as part of I have deck upon deck, a couple trees worth from Shaw over the years, advocating for carve-outs and for spectrum set-asides and other things to be successful, to be the fourth player to provide that competition. So this seems to be quite a drawback. And would you not agree, Mr. Shaw, that also Canadians to make sure that the fourth competition would actually evolve? So this seems to be a little bit, I guess, a slap in the face for decades of a strategy here to actually provide more competition. I don't know how we can take one of the four out of any of the four and then assume that there's going to be more competition. What do you have to say about all that investment and time that's gone into that in the policies that you've advocated for over a decade?
I'll ask Paul to comment and then I can comment after. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Mr. Massey, the government's spectrum policy has very sensibly evolved over time. And I think if I could briefly remind the committee that the history of this evolution is noteworthy here. The birth of this industry back in the early mid-'80s was able to take place because the government at the time provided free spectrum to the regional telcos as well as to what at the time was Rogers Cantel to move forward and basically birth a new industry, and an industry that we all are incredibly grateful. And I think everyone in this committee has a phone on their desk or in their pocket today that they rely on every day. That spectrum policy enabled that initial birth of this industry, and that policy. Yeah, sir, go ahead, Brian.
Oh, so yeah, no, yeah, and I guess that's the thing is that now it's all messed up with the timing of this for the next 5G spectrum. So, I mean, this is just the timing couldn't be worse.
Well, if I could, I won't speak to this particular auction because of the restrictions around it, but over time, policy shifts based on what the objectives of the government of the day are and what the objectives of that particular spectrum band are. So it is not, in our view, a conflict at all. The timing is what it is. We believe that over the course of the last number of years, the auctions have come forward in a way that has supported what we have today, and the country is in a far better place for it.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Our next round of questions goes to MP Poilievre. You have the floor for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. Mr. McAleese, a moment ago, you were saying that you don't think that Freedom played an important role in reducing prices, but Shaw actually said the contrary, as my colleague pointed out earlier, that, quote, Freedom's entry has shifted the market dynamics, causing the big three to drastically reduce overage fees and offer significantly more data for much lower prices. Now you opposite. In fact, you almost verbatim said the opposite of what your company said not so long ago. Why the contradiction?
I don't think it's a contradiction. And Mr. Poilievre, I said that we were not solely responsible for the change in pricing. There were consumer pain points that over the last number of years, Freedom has pointed out, and that frankly, the incumbents have reacted to in a way that essentially has changed the facts of where we are. The market has absolutely changed. So while there are areas in which we have been able to apply pressure and make changes, there are many areas, in fact, probably more areas, in where the incumbents have brought forward new pricing strategies and new opportunities for Canadians to access this.
Yeah, but
So-
not long ago, you said the reason for that was Freedom Mobile existing as a fourth competitor in the marketplace. So you are contradicting yourself in the sense that you said that a fourth competitor has forced the big three to lower prices, and now you're downplaying the importance of a fourth competitor in the delivery of low prices to customers. So at the end of the day, would you say that having the fourth competitor lowers prices?
Well, if I could respectfully disagree, those comments were made in the context of support for facilities-based carrier builds. So I think those comments can coexist.
Right. That wasn't my question. Do you believe a fourth carrier reduces prices?
I believe a dynamic competitive environment reduces prices.
The question for the third time was, do you believe that a fourth carrier reduces prices? Yes or no?
It's all situational, Mr. Poilievre.
Do you believe that Freedom's entry get dynamics and caused the big three to drastically reduce overage fees and significantly offer significantly more data for lower prices? Do you believe that to be true?
I believe we had a degree of influence over that. I also believe that they have taken initiative on their own to recognize
that wasn't my
opportunities
question.
to grow
My
the market.
question is if you believe that statement to be true. Do you?
I think we had a role in it.
Okay, so this was a statement from your own company from only a few months ago.
In the context of supporting facilities-based builds.
Right. Okay. Can you please provide us with a comprehensive list of all of the overlapping services that Shaw and Rogers currently provide?
Off the top, it would be primarily in the wireless sector, where there is very little overlap on the wireline side, no overlap on the Shaw Direct satellite side, none, of course, on media. So it would be exclusively, I would think, in wireless, maybe a small amount in business segment.
And in which markets do those overlaps currently exist?
Are both licensed to provide cellular service, which at this point would be Alberta, BC, and Ontario.
So Alberta, BC, and Ontario, all other things being equal, if you two become one, then those markets would have one fewer option for the customers in wireless, correct?
That is the math of it, yes.
And do you believe that less competition leads to higher prices?
I believe that you need a dynamic competitive environment to continue to support a dynamic competitive pricing structure.
Okay, dynamic and competitive will give us dynamic and competitive. And will going from 4 to 3 equal dynamic and competitive?
I think it absolutely can. We've seen this in other markets where there have been, including looking south, where there's essentially been a move from 4 to 3 in the course of the last year. And I think by any objective standard, the U.S. market is both competitive and affordable.
Do you think the existence of a fourth player in many of the markets, of the biggest markets of the country, has actually brought prices down?
I think over the course of time, all the carriers have recognized that in order to grow penetration and move into sort of the 5G world, there's been opportunity to adjust price.
And finally, if I could just ask.
Unfortunately, Mr. Poilievre, go ahead. Was it you wanted to ask them to table those documents? Is that correct?
Yes, if I could just, I did put you on the spot, Mr. McAleese. If you and also Rogers could table a full list of all overlapping services that the two companies have, that would be great. Thank you.
We'd be happy to. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. So if you could make sure that gets to the clerk, we'll make sure that it's circulated amongst the committee members. Our next round of questions goes to MP Jacek. You have the floor for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the representatives from Rogers and Shaw for being here. I think we're all wrestling with the fundamental question of what Mr. Natale said in his opening statement, that this acquisition of Shaw by Rogers is going to lead to increased competition. In essence, many of my colleagues have pointed this out, and as also David Olive in the Toronto Star on Saturday, March 27th said, mostly for lack of competition, which this deal would further reduce, Canadians pay some of the highest fees for telecom services in the world. So, Mr. Natale, when you said that this deal would actually lead to increased competition, who are these competitors?
Well, first of all, MP Jacek, I would say that I'd be happy to submit to you the OECD reports, the Wall report, and the Monitor report that all say that Canada fares very well with respect to the other 37 countries in the OECD, and we're right in the middle of the pack with respect to affordability and pricing. And yet we have one of the most difficult countries in the world to provide telecom services across as a whole.
Yes, Mr. Natale, could you just tell me who increased competition?
Well, first of all, if you look at the consumer in, for example, Western Canada, the scale of Shaw's fiber footprint, the scale of Rogers compete more broadly, more intensively in Western Canada. More than ever, this
with whom, Mr. Natale?
The largest player in Western Canada is TELUS, and Bell is also in Western Canada. And in the case of TELUS, they have both a residential business and a wireless business. Together, Rogers and Shaw would have strong capability in both residential and wireless businesses. We'd be a far better match to compete head on with TELUS in terms of the consumer market. In terms of rural Canadians, as you heard earlier, rural Canadians either have no internet, very poor internet, or only one provider. And by the two of us coming together and the ability to put our balance sheets together and spend more capital, we can work hard to close that gap with the 600,000 rural Canadians that have inadequate or no internet. And in markets where they'll get internet for the first time, and also in markets where they only have one provider, we will be that next provider from that perspective. And that also includes rural small businesses. If you look at the business market as a whole, and when you look at medium and large business and the largest governments in the country, we really don't play in that market, neither does Shaw. That market pretty much belongs entirely to Bell Canada or to TELUS. We've been out of that market because we don't have a national footprint. And anytime we pitch up for, the likes of the network for a major bank or for a major store, distribution chain, or for anyone that has needs facilities across the country, we're at a competitive disadvantage because we don't have the network. So I can keep going, but the other thing
I would prefer you not to, because it's my time. So you're not talking about any potential new entrants. You're still talking Bell, TELUS, and the reconfigured Rogers.
I would say that if you look at last year, MP Jacek, last year, 4.2 million Canadians changed their wireless provider. 90% of them moved to one of the three large national players. That says that there's a very competitively intensive market in Canada, in all markets across the country, and that it's not going to be lessened because of this change. If anything, it will be intensified. I would tell you that last year there were over 1,000 price changes in the market, driven by any number of the players, driven by the large national players. And every week, people are fighting hammer and tong for that next customer, especially as immigration in Canada has been lessened through the COVID period. We haven't had the same number of customers to try to attract. So the competitive intensity will not change. In fact, it will only get greater because of the capabilities of both the Shaw and the Rogers organization.
And the jobs that you have committed to, apparently they're going to be additional jobs. Won't it simply be that Shaw employees are relabeled as Rogers employees? Where do these extra jobs come in?
These extra jobs come with the fact that we need to grow our business to expand into rural Canada to deploy 5G, and these are net new jobs.
Thank you very much. We will now start our fourth round of questions, and we'll try to complete that round. Our first round of questions goes to MP Dreeshen. You have the floor for 5 minutes.
Well, thank you very much. And just in the discussions that we've had, Mr. Natali, you were talking about major banks and the issues that you have when you're trying to expand and to into other parts of the country. I guess one of the questions, and we talked about employment numbers, what business and operational functions will Rogers move to Calgary amount to? And of course, there's some fantastic head offices there too, if you happen to be interested. So if you could just have a quick comment on what those business and operational functions will be that you will be bringing to Calgary.
Thank you, MP Dreeshen. I'm going to ask Dean Prevost, who is one of the executives on my table that runs 2 of our businesses from Calgary, to talk about what he's going to do to help support the future of workforce capability and skills within his community.
Thank you, Joe and MP Dreeshen. Let's start about what will happen as we begin to build activity and capability into rural, Indigenous, and remote communities. It begins with a design, build, engineering capability, and following quickly behind are permanent high-paying jobs to run the operations, the maintenance, and all of the expansion activities for services that go on top of it. So it really runs the gamut, and that's in addition to making Calgary a center for engineering excellence, which would include full network capabilities, full software design, engineering, AI, and virtualization capabilities in that space. So quite exciting, high-paying jobs in the city and in all the communities that we roll out our network in order to reach rural, remote, and Indigenous Canadians.
Okay, well, thank you, and I'm sure you'll be doing as good a push as you can, Mr. Provo, to get the head office in Calgary as well. But just on the other part of it, I just wondering what the time frame is for expanding rural broadband access into Alberta, and how much of that $1 billion, for example, would be allocated to rural, let's say, rural communities in central Alberta.
I'm going to ask Victoria Smith, who hasn't had a chance to speak, and this is very much her primary responsibility for us. Victoria, can you talk about your role in terms of network expansion and the $1 billion of net new investment?
Thank you, Joe. Happy to. This is an investment for rural, remote, and Indigenous communities, which is something I'm very passionate about, coming from a small town on the shores of Lake Huron myself. I think the only way to do this is there's only one way, and that's through consultation and collaboration with communities. We've just been through a very big round of funding, the Universal Broadband Fund. We're seeing the connectivity landscape shift in real time. And I think it's really important, again, that we get out on the ground. We've just hired a team of people that are based in areas to get out there and start talking to communities more about what their connectivity landscape really looks like or doesn't look like, and what their digital aspirations are. I know my counterparts at Shaw certainly have some great relationships in these communities as well, and we're really looking forward to working with them and learning more and seeing what we can do.
Thank you very much on that. And of course, there is a lot of improvement that is required because, as I just mentioned, being here in rural Alberta, the connectivity issue has not been great. I just have 2 quick other questions. I don't believe this is what was meant when you said security or sovereignty and security to the nation, but will you be committing to non-Huawei equipment in the build-out that you have?
MP Dreeshen, we've already made that commitment. Our entire network is based on Ericsson technology. It has been for a long time. They're our network partner in 4G, and they'll be our network partner in 5G and into the future.
That's great. And my last,
yeah.
I mentioned this before about not being able to speak because of the upcoming auction. And I guess my question is, when is that auction? And how quickly then, after that auction takes place, could we expect you to comment on that?
The auction is in June, and then there's a settlement period thereafter. So I would imagine within, a month or two thereafter, we'd be able to speak more broadly about spectrum.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next round of questions goes to MP Johari. You have the floor for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to start with Mr. Natal. Mr. Nature, based on my understanding, you had said that folks with existing mobile plan under Shaw won't see price increases for at least 3 years should the merger go through. First of all, is this statement true?
It's correct, yes.
Okay, so is it possible to assume that the prices will increase to those customers?
No, that was not the intent of making that promise. The intent was to give people a degree of certainty. I believe that wireless prices will continue to go down for all wireless customers. And part of the big benefit of 5G is to deliver a better unit cost of delivering a gigabyte of data. And therefore that allows us to bring prices down even further and extend this notion of unlimited to even a broader set of the market. So it was really meant to give comfort to the Freedom customers on the road to 5G and everything else that will come. But there's been a huge drive to bring prices down in Canada. 50% in the last 5 years at Rogers alone, 10 to 18% in the last year based on the quarterly report put out by our government. And this will just continue over the fullness of time. We look to other markets in the world that have made the 5G investment. We're behind in terms of 5G. We're behind other countries that are fully deployed 5G, have been able to enjoy some of those benefits. And we see very well what they're able to accomplish in terms of bringing prices down, and we're going to follow suit.
Yeah, thank you. So you indicated that we are behind in 5G, and this merger and the alignment of the investment will allow us to be able to, allow those organizations to be able to accelerate implementation of 5G. Can you make comment on specifically what we're going to do, what your organization is going to do to accelerate that?
Well, first of all, at Rogers, we've already launched 5G to 170 cities across Canada, and we're going to continue to do so. What we're waiting for is the upcoming auction. The upcoming auction is a very important spectrum for 5G, and potentially the auction after that one. These particular frequencies have already been auctioned off in other countries across the world. Some, 2 and 3 years ago. And so we're waiting for the spectrum to continue to deploy as we see fit. But we're building every day. Part of our partnership with Ericsson was to launch 5G ready technology on top of all of the Rogers towers. And therefore, we're going to move full blast. The fiber footprint that Shaw brings to the party will help us to really complement the capability of our wireless network with the fiber footprint. Fiber is a very important ingredient to wireless networks, and Shaw's fiber footprint in Western Canada is amongst the best of
Thank you. If I may go to Mr. Shaw. Mr. Shaw, there is an important 3,500 megahertz spectrum auction in June, as it was mentioned by Mr. Natal. And this will be, as said, this will be foundational to the future of 5G in our country. It's been suggested that Shaw won't or can't bid given the proposed merger. And if you're not bidding or you can't bid and this merger doesn't go through, then what would be the impact on your ability to be able to compete as a fourth carrier going forward?
Well, a couple comments, and I think Joe mentioned, due to auction rules, unfortunately can't comment on that at this time. I think as you look forward, certainly, spectrum is important whenever we're looking in the business we have and in wireless business. And, I think as you go forward, there would certainly be other ways commercially and other things you can do actually to be able to launch new services and new products and being able to do that. So I just end my comments there.
Mr. Natal, do you want to make any comment on that one?
No, as Mr. Shaw said, we are prohibited from speaking any more extensively around the auction, given that it's around the corner and we're in the quiet period.
Okay, well, I got 30 seconds that I'm going to give it back to the chair for us to keep on time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next round of questions, c'est Député Lemire. Vous avez 2 minutes.
MP Lemire, you have 2.5 minutes. Mr. Lemire? I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I didn't hear with the interpretation. Thank you very much. I'd like to recall the Liberals government of their promise to reduce the bills of cell phone payers for Canadians by 25%. So I think that your proposed merger really would move the other way. So what reaction are you expecting from the Liberal government on this issue, Mr. Natali?
Well, I'd say, first of all, the prices have been coming down across the industry. Stats Canada just released their consumer price index for wireless just a little while ago. We've seen a 15% drop in the last 12 months. And the Liberal government's own telecom quarterly report shows that prices have dropped between 10 and 18%, depending on the plan, since January of 2020. And this follows the trajectory of wireless prices over the last many years, and it will continue. It will continue. In terms of the reaction of the government, I would leave the government to comment.
Well, I understand then that we're still far from the 25% goal. Mr. Shaw, according to Anthony Lacadera, who founded Windmobile rather, now the buying of Shaw by Rogers would result in an increase of prices. And so what would you respond to Mr. Lacadera, particularly that you have really said the opposite, talking about a fourth player, and the government has been very clear on their wish to see a fourth player?
I'll ask Paul to comment, and I could add to that.
Thank you, Brad. I think Mr. Lacadera probably is lacking in current market information. Frankly, probably not worth responding to any further.
Okay, but if I'm asking you the question, would you have an answer for me?
Could you reframe the question?
If I ask you if the presence of Windmobile, I wasn't expecting you to not answer it. If Windmobile would be successful as an independent, if it was done in a way that the actions of the other three major players would limit what they could do, would that have an impact on the prices?
Thank you. The translation came through a little choppy there. Just to be clear, my comment about Mr. Lacadera wasn't an attempt to not answer your question, sir. It was simply a reflection of the fact that he's been out of the category a long time and is perhaps not current with it, seeking a little bit of attention these days. On our influence, I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
Yeah, sorry, it's just we're really over time, and I want to make sure that we get everybody in there. The next round of questions goes to MP Massey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to return to the spectrum auction, something I've always, talk a lot about in this committee. The timing seems to be really awful here. The spectrum auction was delayed by 6 months, and then now this comes, and it really doesn't even make any sense if Shaw is sidelined. One of our four competitors to a competitive market is now pushed out of the system. Nobody can really comment on it because of the timing aspect. But what you can comment on is, would you prefer a decision to be made about this to Rogers and Shaw before the spectrum auction, or would you prefer the spectrum auction to be held off until this time? It could take a long time for the CRTC and the Competition Bureau and the government to decide on this. This is one of the reasons I'm opposed to it, for a lot of different reasons. But you must have a position on that. That affects your business cases and your value in the stock market quite significantly.
I'll take that, Mr. Mass. I hate to be repetitive, but we're not really able to comment on anything that might speak to industry structure in and around the auction. And therefore, there's sort of there is a commitment to stay quiet, anything that relates to the spectrum auction and decisions in and around that. So we don't really have much of an opportunity to say anything further.
Okay, well, I guess then, with the concluding amounts of my time, and move on, Madam Chair, because there is no, I mean, that really comes to the thrust of this, is that, I mean, we've had a market here that has been isolated from the world by design. It's provided a lot of benefits that way, but it's also blocked competition. So we spent a lot of public policy to foster competition. And now these two companies are going to put a significant fly in the soup when it comes to the spectrum auction that actually can provide more competition and more relief for Canadians at this time than ever before. So it's really unfortunate, I think. It says a lot.
Thank you very much. Notre prochaine tour.
Our next turn will be for MP Généreux. You have 5 minutes. Thank you, Madam Chair. For Mr. Shaw, do you commit fully, and Mr. Natali as well, do you fully commit to divest yourselves of the Shaw's wireless activities in light of this transaction?
Why don't I take that first, Brad? There is a process that's just begun with 3 regulators, the Competition Bureau, ISED, and the CRTC. This will be germane to those discussions. We are just in the middle of creating our submissions. It's hard for me to comment on exactly what we may or may not do. I would tell you that we'll be reasonable, we'll be practical, we'll work very closely with the regulators to find a solution that makes sense for Canadians and makes sense with respect to what's at stake. What's at stake right now is how far and how fast we can go with 5G, how far and how fast we can go to connecting rural Canadians, creating affordable solutions for those Canadians who struggle to afford these capabilities. And you have my word that we will try to solve, as to the best of our abilities, those 3 factors as we sit down with the regulators and work out a reasonable approach.
Mr. Natali, si vous permettez.
Mr. Natali, if I may, unless Mr. Shaw has something to add. But Mr. Natali?
No comment. I think Joe said it well.
Okay, perfect.
Mr. Natali, we are parliamentarians, and most Canadians, and I'm convinced that a lot of people who are in the industry watching this meeting today, I'm a businessman. I realize that mergers are sometimes necessary to move certain industries or business forward. But I want to give you the opportunity to really explain, because there are some contradictory things that we've heard today. That is to say, you're saying that we're in the mid-range in terms of prices, and my assistant sent me a list of increases that Rogers has sent to their clients in the last few years that represent about $25. But prices are important for all Canadian consumers. So I'd like to give you the opportunity to tell us, because you say, and I'm not doubting your intentions or anything, but the perception that Canadians might have, or perhaps the reality might be, that they're going to see 3 or maybe 4 major players in the country instead of 5. And what effect will that have on long-term service that they might have? Because you're also saying we don't have the density of population, and we're the 3rd biggest territory in the world. So that represents significant costs to build the infrastructure. So what arguments can you give us and to the people who are listening to us today to say that this transaction, this merger, is necessary and beneficial to all Canadians?
Thank you, MP Généreux. I would start by saying that we're at the doorstep of a very important time in our history in the telecommunications industry. The same doorstep we faced in 1999 when people started talking about the internet and whether there was a market for it. The same doorstep that we faced in the 1960s when we started talking about whether cable TV had a market for it. The same doorstep that we faced in 1985 when we wondered how many Canadians might actually want a wireless device. And if I dusted off the business cases of all those different moments in time, we were dead wrong in every estimate in terms of the importance and the quality of the capability and the adoption that was important to Canadians. So we're on that doorstep again. And this is the doorstep of 5G. and 5G will fundamentally change our nation, our ability to participate in the digital economy. So this is really about nation building. That's what's at stake here more than anything else. And the ability to drive 5G will lead to more affordability, will lead to lower wireless prices, but also importantly, will create the capabilities that are important to our nation, whether it sits in healthcare or transportation or the resource sector, oil and gas, whether it sits in agri-tech and the technologies that will change our productivity and our capability as a nation. So these two companies coming together will have the opportunity to do just that, to contribute in those ways and deliver on that 5G promise. And that's the doorstep that we're on and the importance of what we're up to.
Est-ce que votre intention est de...
Is it your intention? Because I think that in your business case, Quebec, yes, with Rogers, because you have 3,000 people who work for you who live in Quebec. But I'm sorry, Mr. Généreux, but your overtime, your time has expired. Oh. Our last turn is Mr. Assas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I could ask Mr. Natal a question. I have to say, sir, I'm very much confused. On the one hand, you've essentially been arguing, not only today, but also in the media, that there is very little overlap between Rogers' operations and Shaw's operations, whether in market segments or in terms of services. Yet on the other hand, you're saying that consumers should be cheering you on and they should be very much looking forward to this. If there are no overlaps and there is no efficiency gains, so to speak, how could you possibly argue that there will be savings and that those savings will be passed on to Canadians?
Thank you for the question. You're right, there are minimal overlaps, but there are incredible complementarities to the capabilities of the business. I'll give you the most important one, for example, and that is Shaw has spent 5 decades building an extensive fiber network throughout every major city and medium-sized city all through Western Canada.
Mr. Natal, do you believe in trickle-down economics? Is that essentially what we're supposed to believe?
No, it's not based on any economic theory. It's just based on the fact that we would have to spend a few $1 billion of Rogers capital to replicate that fiber network. And by coming together, we can leverage that fiber network, extend it further into rural Canada, and we can also leverage it as the backbone for 5G capability, because 5G only works with a very extensive fiber network. So right there's a massive synergy.
So you're saying, given all the investments that have to go into 5G, all Canadian companies should be now acquiring one another, gobbling each other up?
I'm saying that we're on the doorstep of a very important investment cycle, and the onus is on us as Rogers and on Shaw to look at what are the possibilities and opportunities to deliver on 5G and deliver on the rural opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Natal. Okay. Mr. Shaw, same question. If there's no efficiency gains, there's no overlap between the services, essentially speaking, that you offer and Rogers offers, why would there be savings to Canadians?
Well, listen, I think it's, just as Joe said it so well, it's, there's a real opportunity here for us to be able to pull our capital together and the balance sheets and the two companies with to have that capital dollar extend all the way through to rural, remote, Indigenous, and 5G, because we have prided ourselves on being able to serve and deliver the products and services Canadians want. And I think this is an opportunity that we can accelerate that and actually provide an opportunity and a doorstep that will truly make Canada even more competitive and really drive economic growth and jobs. And I think those things are so fundamental and key, because we're a builder. We're a family that has always looked at that and always done that. And so now this is an opportunity. And, as I think some of you know, as Yogi Bear said, if there's a Y in the road, you should take it. And so we have fundamentally believed that this is the right thing for us to do in Western Canada. And when you can drive connectivity that way, I think it's terribly
Mr. Shaw,
exciting.
it might very well be the right thing for you to do. It might be very well the right thing for Rogers to do. But we're concerned about consumers. Why is it the right thing for consumers?
because I think this opens up new doors. And with any capital investment, you have an opportunity to drive competition, innovation, new products and services, and really, I would say, make that digital divide a lot smaller for all of us. And
so you're asserting less competition leads to more innovation. That's your.
You're right. Competition, dynamic competition adds to that, and it doesn't have to be a number of players. I think when you have that dynamic competition in the market, which the federal government will be able to create the policies to be able to do that, and we still have a regulatory overhang.
But this proposed merger undermines competition. Surely you would agree with that, correct?
No, I don't. I don't agree. No.
You don't agree that this proposed acquisition would diminish competition?
No, I think it's going to drive it in a way that is terribly exciting for Canadians. And as you look at investment cycle, we don't want to underinvest. If you're underinvesting, then you're not actually going to be delivering what you want to deliver to Canadians. And I think this is what it's about, is driving that investment.
So you're driving this merger because of your concern about Canadian consumers rather than your shareholders. That's what you're telling us today.
Well, absolutely. I think we're all about, as I said in the opening statement, we're all about consumers. That's our lifeblood. That's everything we do and everything we've been successful for. And we all want to make sure. Sorry, Madam Chair.
My apologies. We really are out of time. So that is our time for today.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank the witnesses for being with us today. As you can see, we have a lot of concerns regarding this issue, and we appreciate your frank responses and your time with us today. Just a gentle reminder to members of the committee to get their prioritized witness lists for the next study to the clerk as soon as possible so we can get those invites out. Again, a big thank you to our interpreters, to our IT team, and Francis, and I'm looking where she is. There she is. Our analyst and our clerk, thank you so much for your time today in a riding week. And with that, I will call this meeting adjourned.
Thank you, Mrs. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.